Hi, I'm Dan Wright, and I'm going to be talking about sustainability and ecological economics. Sustainability is the capability of a system to absorb change. When we're talking about sustainability with respect to ecological economics, we're usually talking about the absorptive capacity of the environment. Since we live on a planet that's fairly good at absorbing change, it's unlikely that a single event can destroy or drastically alter the system. For example, a forest fire introduces carbon dioxide into the air, but the planet can absorb that change since it will be compensated for by other factors in the environment, like plants that use carbon dioxide. Another issue with sustainability is the tragedy of the commons, which is when individual economic actors tend to abuse a common resource because in the traditional economic view, the idea is to maximize your profit. The tragedy of the commons demonstrates that the overuse of a common resource is not sustainable long term. And it shows that while environments generally have some sustainability to endure change, there are limits. There are two types of sustainability, strong and weak. First, I'm going to talk about weak sustainability, which is the traditional economic view. Weak sustainability can be defined as having no limits to substitution. What this means is that every resource, including natural capital, has a substitute. It claims that if we were to run out of one type of resource, a close substitute can be either found or manufactured. Strong sustainability, on the other hand, claims that there are limits to substitution and that not every good has a close substitute. Again, in particular, this applies to natural resources. People have been trying to find alternatives to fossil fuels, for example, and while some success has been made, fossil fuels are still necessary for the production of many consumer goods and our energy needs. Ecological economics adopts this strong sustainability viewpoint. In my opinion, the strong sustainability viewpoint is what we need to consider when making economic decisions. It's unreasonable to think that every single resource will have a close substitute, and even if a close substitute does exist, it's possible that it'll be more expensive, more difficult to maintain, and less efficient, simply because we've already found and used up a lot of the readily available energy sources. It's also possible that the substitute may require the original natural resource to produce it. Take solar energy, for example. It's considered to be an alternative energy source to fossil fuels, but it requires fossil fuels for production. So even though substitutes do exist, they might not be as useful as the original product. In this video, I've mentioned traditional economics and ecological economics, and now I'm going to talk a little more about the differences between the two. First of all, traditional economics views the economy and the environment as separate entities, whereas ecological economics considers the economy in conjunction with environmental and social factors. The economy is enveloped in the environment in the ecological economics view. And if you think about the ecological economics approach, it makes a lot of sense because every decision we make inevitably affects the environment around us. So it's really not possible to keep them separate. If you make the economic decision to buy a car, for example, it's going to impact the environment. Driving a car also has societal impacts. More emissions in the air mean a higher incidence of respiratory diseases. Another difference between traditional economics and ecological economics is that the traditional view is that humans are the only and most important species that is taken into account when making economic decisions. Ecological economics, on the other hand, views the human species as an integral part of the planet. And the traditional economics view is flawed in this way because we rely on other species immensely. Our bodies require numerous bacteria to break down food in our digestive tracts, and other microorganisms help degrade commercial waste. Still, other organisms consume carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. So the economy can't run as its own entity long term because economic activity requires environmental inputs and has numerous societal and environmental impacts. And if we want to be able to sustain our quality of life, we have to begin to integrate ecological economics ideas into the traditional economics viewpoints.